Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Blindside Fresno. My name is Darcy Elliott and we're so glad you're here today. Our show is about people who are facing blind and low vision issues in their life, and today we are very pleased to say we have a local author, Olivia Ostergaard, with us. Thank you for joining us, Olivia. We're going to be talking about your life and your book, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So as we were getting ready for the show, I was looking over your book, and so I just want to talk to you a little bit about your life. Now, my understanding is that you were born premature.
Yes.
And so that caused vision loss, and you have a little bit of vision in your left eye. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but you had to grow up with low vision, and how has that affected you, do you think, in your life? I mean, did it impact you in a big way?
Oh yeah, because when I started school, we started out with the county schools at Beardsley. I'm a Valley girl from Bakersfield, born and raised, so I know the Valley. And I was in the class with the other blind kids and the totals, you know. And in those days, they didn't teach us Braille. If you had some residual vision, the rule was you had to learn large print, which was a crock, because there's no guarantee you're going to keep what you've got. And I've lost the vision in my left eye, in my right eye, you know, since that. It's been over 40 years, but.
So you feel it was a real advantage to you to learn Braille?
Oh yeah.
As a child and
yeah.
as a blind person, and even if someone lost their sight as an adult, would you recommend they learn Braille?
Yes. Oh yes,
Okay.
Even though there's all kinds of technology and all that kind of stuff nowadays, you know, you can still, it's still useful. Like, you know, for instance, most places with elevators have Braille markings on them.
Okay.
And if, you know, you're in a situation like that where you're by yourself, if you don't know the Braille markings, how are you going to figure out which button to push to go to which floor?
Okay, so even simple things such as that, or even reading a menu in a restaurant,
Right.
a lot of them have Braille menus, but
Right.
if you don't have that ability, then you have to rely on another person.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that was a recommendation that you would give, is for people to take the time to learn Braille, even though some people would say, oh, I'm just going to rely on my computer or my smartphone, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good to know.
I tried learning it at 13. There was a gentleman, an older gentleman that knew my folks, and they had asked him, you know, would you be willing to teach me?
Okay.
And we tried, and it was very, very hard at the time, and I just gave up. You know, so if I'd have had it when I first started school, or what they do now is they do pre-Braille for little kids that are like preschoolers, and they start them with basic grade 1, which is basically spelling the letters out and stuff like that.
Okay,
So
so even that would be an advantage, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about one thing I did not know about you until I looked through your book and read through your book, was that you have 2 college degrees, one in psychology, and the second one had a fine arts with a music emphasis.
Right.
That's
and
right.
then an English major. I did a double major.
Okay, and so how did that all come about?
At the time, I was planning to go, when I first started college, I was planning to go to Fresno, San Francisco State.
Okay.
Because that's where the visually impaired program is and still is.
Okay.
And at that time they said you have to have a degree in either psychology or sociology, so that's why I got my degree in psychology.
Okay.
And then I graduated. I worked for a while. I went back to school to learn medical transcribing, because that's what rehab said you had to do.
Okay.
Which was a joke. And then I decided, after working a year and a half at a tutoring center at Bakersfield College, I decided to go back and get my music degree because I wanted to teach music.
And you did that for a while?
I did. I taught choir for 2 years from 90 to 92 at Adams Elementary here.
Okay. And was that a positive experience?
I loved it.
Oh.
I loved it. I had originally planned to work with junior high or high school, And after I realized I can't stand junior hires, and I know you work with junior hires.
I do.
Yeah. It was like little kids. I just fell in love with little kids.
Right.
So.
And you're still active musically in your church, I
Right.
believe, and so you still keep up with all that.
Yep. Yep.
And you said in this coming fall that you're going to be celebrating, I believe you said 28 years of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How did you meet Jim, and how did that come about?
Well, we met at Hume Lake at a singles conference
Okay.
in '87, and every time I turned around, this guy kept following me around. It's like, what's going on, you know? And my friend with me said, "Livy, I think he likes you." Nah, you know. And I was playing real, you know, hard to get, and because I'd never really dated that much.
Right.
And but anyway, it worked out, and
That sounds like it.
we got married, and 8 years later, we had our son.
Okay. And James is,
He'll be 20 in
20.
January.
and
so-
he's going into computers.
Right,
And
he's majoring at UC Irvine in computer science, and he's
Oh,
there down
well,
there
good
now
for him.
working, and he loves it.
I'm glad to hear that. And so at some point, you said that you got interested in writing. You took some classes in college, I believe,
Yes.
and you got started with that. And so that has kind of morphed into writing. And so you've written a book, and we're going to be talking about that in just a little bit. But what kind of brought you to the place where you said, you know what, I need to write a book about my story?
It was really the day, no, I'm sorry. It was before I got Fenway, and after going through school and everything, by the time I got through with the third attempt to get a guide dog, the first one didn't work out. The dog and I didn't click. They sent me home.
Okay.
The second dog, my Zumi,
Okay.
I had to change the names. You know, I had to change all the
Right.
names and everything. That dog didn't work out. I had her for almost 3 years, and I had to let her go because she'd want to jump up on the table and grab your food, and she'd knock me down when I take her out to relieve because she wanted to go chase squirrels.
So
Or
your
birds.
road to getting a guide dog did not necessarily start smoothly, but
No way.
it turned out well.
Yes.
But let me jump back a little bit and ask you, how did you decide I'm going to transition from a cane to a guide dog? I mean, why make that transition? A lot of visually impaired people do not,
Right. I'd been using a cane for over 30 years.
right?
And in the first chapter of the book, I was leaving, in fact, I remember the date, it was December the 5th, 2000.
Okay.
I was leaving my Bible study at church, and I was going to pick up my son, and we were going to the parking lot to wait for my ride.
Okay.
And I had my cane, I was bebopping along and everything was cool, and all of a sudden, bam, I tripped over a cement pylon. I fell backwards and hit my head on a car
Oh my goodness.
bumper. And all I could do was just lay there. And I looked at my son and said, "Darling, Mama's going to be okay. You know, just start praying, whatever." And one of the girls was a nurse. She saw me. She came over and started looking at me and said, "Livy, are your eyes dilated?" And I was fine. I just had a pretty good knock on my noggin.
Okay.
And came home, and I called Ed and Tony Ames, who I'd been friends for years. When we were with NFB, we were friends, and they were guide dog experts, had written several books, spoke all over the world, and I knew they were the folks I needed to talk to. So I called Ed up and said, "Ed, I got a problem." Told him what happened. He said, "Have you thought about a guide dog?" I said, "Not till now," and that's where it started.
Okay. So basically the hope was that a guide dog would enhance and that you would be able to be even more independent
Right.
and more safe.
Right.
And why would a guide dog make you more safe? Now that you have had one, how does he help you be more safe?
You know, he goes around obstacles and stuff where you can find them with your cane, but at the end of or near the end of the book, I tell about an instance at school.
Okay.
It was the next to the last day when we got Fenway, and we did this obstacle course. They sent a bunch of things like garbage cans and all kinds of stuff, and we had to first do the process with our canes, and then we had to do it with our dogs, and they timed them both times. Those of us that had a little residual vision, we had to use a blindfold In fact, mine, they had to put a piece of tape over it to make sure I didn't see anything.
Okay.
Because sometimes I can see shadows and stuff. And it was so much faster with our dogs than with our canes. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And, you know, so...
Well, sorry.
You know, plus the fact that when you're out and about, getting on buses or trains or planes or whatever, people are more, you know, the dog is your magnet.
Right.
And people will come up to you and start asking questions, you know,
Okay.
does the dog bite? How did you get the dog? How long does it take? Blah, 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 the usual questions. And that was another reason why I wanted the book. I wanted to clear up all the questions that I'd been getting all the time from folks,
Right.
and put it in the book so it would be all right there in one package.
Yeah, the producer of our show, William, also has a guide dog. He's
Right.
my husband. So he has a lot of the same experiences. And what he likes to say is the guide dog gets you out of trouble that you don't even know
Yes.
you're going to be in.
Yes,
With the cane,
absolutely.
you have to kind of find the problem.
Yes.
And the dog just takes you around
Around
the
it.
problem. You don't even know
Yeah.
there was a problem.
Yeah.
So, but there is an element of trust and learning to do that. Did you have a hard transition with the trust issues
I did
versus
at
a cane?
first. I did at first, was particularly with, and I think that's probably one reason why I didn't make it in the first attempt.
Okay.
The second attempt with Zumi, I really didn't know what I was doing.
Okay.
And it took a long time of adjustment and reading, and I think emotionally I had to be ready, and I wasn't really ready.
Right.
But when it came to, when I got Fenway, I was ready. I was more than ready, and everything just clicked.
So that's a really good point, I think, is that people think, oh, I'm just going to get this dog. It's going to be
yeah.
easy. It's going to be a no-brainer kind
Right,
of.
because I was-
and it's a huge decision.
Yeah.
It can be a fantastic decision, but it is a big decision.
Right, and I was
there's
scared.
a lot to consider.
I was scared to death of big dogs, and it took a long time for me to kind of lessen that fear, you know, and all. And but when I got him, you know, I still get a little bummed when I'm walking down Van Ness or something, and you know, I can hear these Dobermans, you know, you know, and stuff like that.
Scary.
Yeah, you know, those kind of dogs kind of bug me. But as far as that goes, I don't think about it. I just don't like the little yappy ones, and he doesn't either.
And was your husband and your son okay with you
Oh, yeah.
getting a guide dog?
Oh yeah, my son was tickled to death, and you know, at first it was kind of like, okay guys, now here's the deal, you know, for 6 months, you don't mess with the dog,
Oh, yeah.
because we had to bond.
Okay, that's an excellent. We're going to stop you right there for just a second. When we come back from our break, we are going to talk more about Olivia and her book, Looking at the Unseen, and we'll be back in just a minute.
I already knew that I was going to go to college, you know, from a young age. I definitely want to major in political science, become the mayor or something, make the situation better for other people. My name is Justin, and I am your dividend.
Start a story. Adopt at theshelterpetproject.org.
An excerpt from Looking at the Unseen, My Guide Dog Journey by Olivia Ostergaard. Chapter 1, The Need. We've all had journeys. Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey, Moses and the Israelites, Christian in Pilgrim's Progress. Some are either prolonged, lasting for years, or some can be a 10-minute walk to the corner store. Some say life is a journey. How we view it is how we ultimately succeed or not. Sometimes we get lost and have to find our way back home. Perhaps we're in search of some elusive dream. My journey began on a normal Wednesday morning in early December 2000, as I left my women's Bible study at church. Starting for the nursery, I walked over to pick up my 3-year-old son, James. We chatted some as we moved to where we would be picked up. Back and forth I moved my cane to find my way through the parking lot, but I tripped, falling backwards over a cement pylon. My cane flew out of my hand and I yelled, "Whoa, whoa!" I fell back, hitting my head, and I lay scared, embarrassed, and hurting. My friend Brenda saw me fall. As I sat waiting to make sure I was okay, she asked me if I hadn't been using my cane. "Yes, and I don't know how I could have missed that pylon either," I answered. "I've been missing steps and things lately. I think my vision is getting worse." I spent the next 10 minutes or so punishing myself for being so stupid. Why, I'd been a cane user for over 30 years. I had excellent mobility skills. "Livy, you idiot. How in the world did you miss that? How could you have missed that pylon?" I asked myself. I think I didn't want to hear the answer. I had been trying to function with diminishing vision, and I knew something was terribly wrong. This little spill proved it. I realized much later I had to find some help, and fast. I couldn't go on like this.
And welcome back to Blindside Fresno. We're going to continue our conversation with Olivia Ostergaard, and she has written a book, Looking at the Unseen, so we're going to continue talking more about that. So as before the break, we were just talking about, your family welcoming the dog, and then again, at some point you decided to write a book. Mm-hmm. And so here it is. So tell me about the writing process. Was it harder than you thought? I've never written a book, so tell me what it's like to write a book.
Oh my. The hardest part is the editing and the rewrite, because you want to get it, perfect.
Right.
And that took me about a year to actually write the story. And I had to go back and edit and rewrite and, perfect it and this, that, and the other. And back in the 80s, I had been reading the Writer magazine because even at that time, I wanted to write the great American love story, and who doesn't? Mm-hmm. And when I had started writing in high school and became interested in it, my dad said I should have been in journalism, and I just kind of, passed it off. And because my cousin was teaching journalism at Arvin High. And, but anyway, I use and I should have brought it today, but I didn't. I have a screen reader that I use. It's called NVDA.
Okay.
And it's basically what it does on my laptop is whatever key I press, it tells me what it is. And so I just start typing. I'd been typing since I was 8 years old. So that was my main, in school, that was my main way of writing, other than, cursive and writing reports out and stuff like that. And as I got into high school, I did more typing and stuff like that. And of course, in college, you typed everything.
Right.
So.
Also a good skill to learn.
Yes.
Right, is typing.
Yes. And that's one thing that they, those of us that have low vision, about 3rd, 4th grade, they start teaching us that. And, and now, of course, with the computers, the kids are learning it so much earlier.
So one of the things that we talked about in another episode was should someone who, as an adult, now has been told they're going to be losing their vision, or they have lost their vision, and one of the things to do is prepare would be to learn some skills like typing perhaps, or basic Braille. Is there anything else that you would recommend that someone who's facing blindness as an adult should do?
Yes. Cane travel, or mobility as we call it. You have to be a very proficient cane user before a guide dog school will even consider you.
Okay.
And the process is usually, your doctor tells you you're losing your sight, and they feel awful because they feel like it's their fault and they didn't have anything to do with it. It just happened, whatever the disease is, or process, or what have you, or age, or,
Right.
And first what you'll do is they will try to get you in touch with Voc Rehab,
That's vocational
Right,
rehabilitation.
right.
Okay.
And they will set you up with the counselor and start getting you things like mobility training, low vision aids such as a CCTV, or a iPhone, well, not an iPhone, but a phone that talks. They'll get you a cane, and they will assign you to an O&M instructor. O&M means orientation and mobility.
Right.
That's the science of cane travel.
Okay.
And they will usually, and most of the time if you're an adult, so if you're 18 or over, they will send you to, at least in California, they will send you to the Orientation Center for the Blind in Albany, which
Okay.
is right off of, right next to Berkeley in that area. And that's where I went right after high school. And you're there from 6 to 9 months, depending on your ability, and you learn cane travel, you learn cooking for the girls, and guys too. Girls had sewing, the guys had wood shop, you had abacus, which was a oriental form. Yeah.
Things have changed probably a little bit since
Yeah.
then, I'm going to guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they still wanted you to learn
But it's
that.
still like skills, because that's another thing that we had mentioned, is that learning how to be blind is a whole new skill set.
Right.
And that
Right.
is something to address.
Right.
So, but going back to your book, so you decided to move forward. You've written a book, and you've got it edited to where you'd like it to be. So how did you actually get it into published form?
I had been looking for a good year and a half at publishers, and because the Writer magazine was my Bible, so to speak,
Okay.
it, gave me advice and things of what I should and shouldn't do. And this is wild, but it did really happen. One day, I'd been talking with one school, and I'm sorry, not one school, one publisher for quite a while. And one day in Bible study, I was doing my own Bible study because I was in Bible study fellowship, and I had been talking to the little gal from Zulon Press, who I went with. And I was reading along, we were studying Isaiah, and this verse came to me that said, "This is the way, walk in it." And it was like, whoa, and it was like I knew that's where God wanted me to be.
Because that is kind of a recurring theme in your book.
Yes.
Is that this is, for you, was very much a
Spiritual journey.
spiritual journey,
Yes,
as much as
absolutely.
a physical journey.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
you do talk about your faith a lot
Mm-hmm.
in the book, and how that influenced the whole thing, and what you learned and got out of it.
Right.
So that's an important piece to your story as
Yes,
well, is your faith.
absolutely. Yes.
And
So and it's funny because I had sent the book to one publisher, and we had a friend that had published with them, but he ended up what I have now is boxes and boxes of books in my living room.
uh-oh.
And I ain't doing that no more, that's for
Okay.
sure. 'Cause
So this, like getting a guide dog, has also been a learning process.
you betcha.
Okay.
You betcha.
Well,
Because,
that's good.
that's just the way
We all
you
need
do.
to keep learning and growing.
Yeah.
So if someone, hopefully they will, purchase your book, which they can get on Amazon in paperback and Kindle format, I
and
understand.
Nook.
If they purchase your book and they read it, what is your hope that they get out of it? What is the message that you want them to take away?
I think the main thing, there are probably two reasons. The first reason is by trusting God and through prayer and reading His Word, He will guide you in ways that are unfathomable. And you can see this throughout the book. There are things that happen that you think, I thought, now what am I going to do? And I mean, I went through an emotional, roller coaster.
Right.
Up and down and up and down. But I just kept plugging on. And by doing that, He will guide you in ways that you just cannot imagine. The second thing is never give up. Be persistent. If you have a goal, no matter what it is, whether you're going to get a cane or want to get a guide dog or you want to go to college, whatever it is, don't give up. Because eventually you're going to reach that goal, because I did. And if I can do it, anybody can.
Well, that's a really powerful and hopeful message. So I hope we all need to learn that lesson, whether you can see or not.
Right.
Right? Life will give you some challenges,
Right.
and you need to keep moving
Forward.
forward, or you either stand still or roll
And s-
backwards, right?
and stagnate, yeah.
So keep going forward, and so those are two powerful messages. And so, again, through your journey with this writing, what do you see as your next step? Are you going to be writing another book? Do you?
Yes, I've
Okay.
got several books in mind that I'm planning on writing.
Okay.
I sort of started a prequel to this, sort of about my parents, and
Okay.
based on that. But I want to make it like a Christian romance type of a thing.
Okay.
And their meeting and all this stuff, and when I was born and all the struggles that happened and they had with that and everything, because at that time I was the smallest baby in Kern County to survive,
Oh, really?
because I weighed 1.5 pounds. I came at 6 months instead of 9, and I went down to 14 ounces.
Oh,
I was
wow.
only 14 inches long, and they had already bought a coffin for me. This is all in the book. I wasn't supposed to be here,
Wow.
but I'm here.
And you're here, and you have a message to share, right? So that's really good that you took that step forward, because a lot of people, can judge or make comments or whatever, but I applaud you for just doing it,
Thank you.
regardless of what anyone might say. And I think, what would you say to the idea that it's important for you to be, especially as a person who doesn't see very well, to be an advocate for yourself?
It's extremely important, because so many times, particularly people that are newly blinded, at first, naturally, you're going to depend on your friends and your family.
Right.
That's just, that's a given. But we have a couple of folks in our CCB chapter, William and I, and Nate and Jerry. And they have just, particularly Jerry, although we haven't seen him for a while because he's had health issues, but
Right.
his attitude is just phenomenal.
Okay. And just to clarify, CCB is the California Council of the Blind,
Right.
and there is a chapter here in Fresno along with other places. So check those out. If you need help, they will be happy to help you.
Right.
And you're talking about members. One has been blind and since birth, like you,
Mhm.
and the other one lost his vision in a very bad accident,
Yes.
basically. And so, whatever your situation, you can get help and guidance and support through organizations
Right.
like
CCB.
California Council of the Blind, and that, I'm assuming, has been important to you.
Yes, and also Valley Center for the Blind. When I meet somebody on the bus or handy ride or whatever, and they're losing their sight, I immediately give them the center's number and say, you go to them, and they'll give you an evaluation and stuff, and they'll tell you which way to go and how to get started. And,
Okay.
I don't know how many times I've done that, but, I'm out there to tell them where to get help, and that's what I love to do. I love to get people in the right direction.
Well, we appreciate that about you, because that's kind of the goal of this show too, for people. And believe it or not, that's actually the end of our time, so we're going to need to wrap it up for today. But thank you, Olivia, so much for coming.
Thank you for having
And
me.
like we said during the break, is like, you did get to write a love story. It just happens to be that the hero is the dog.
Right.
So it worked out
Right.
okay.
Yeah, it did.
So if you have any questions or you need any assistance, please contact us at Blindside Fresno. And again, thank you for joining us. We're honored for your time, and we'd like to have you join us for another episode in the near future. Thank you.